my favorite quote of my own: the future belongs to those who are willing to solve complex problems and innovate.
All right, welcome to the Aussie Ambitions podcast. We have got an amazing episode for you today. We've got Dr. Hazel Herrington. Welcome, Hazel. How are you?
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm so excited to be here on this podcast, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun as we talk about my entrepreneurial journey. We've already had so much that we've shared before this, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Wonderful. Yes, indeed. So for everybody listening in, this is an interesting one where we've got someone with a tremendous amount of experience. She's actually been on the microphone a lot. And so let me just get the introduction out of the way, and then we can connect with Dr. Herrington just to hear a little bit about what she's working on. So I'll introduce her. She's a business strategist. She's a startup specialist. She's done celebrity interviews, multi-award winner, keynote speaker. That's notable as well in recent times, and even in the last 2 years, some big congresses. She does corporate consulting and many other things. So welcome again. And I just would like you to tell us a bit about what you're working on today.
Thank you, Scott. Well, I'm so excited. I've just launched a new business, and it's online, and it's called Herrington Publications Worldwide. And we publish books, magazines, and for authors. And we also work with SAG in Hollywood. So if you're looking at publishing a book, we will help you publish that book. And if you also want to start a magazine, maybe you're corporate, you're ahead of a chamber of commerce, we will help you start your magazine. I know there's a lot of people that think it's a difficult thing to do and maybe they don't have time. So that's what we do. We actually take your company and we just create this magazine. And so we're so excited. Besides that, we also do ethics and leadership training. We are so excited and publishing 2 magazines at the moment, the Presidential, and I have the license and certification to edit and publish this magazine in association with the United States Presidential Service Center. So it's so exciting, and I can't wait to launch the first issue in April 2021.
Okay, well, so we're right on the cusp of it then.
Yeah.
Some big things going on. I think the natural starting point would be, given that we're on the Ambitions podcast and we've got a lot of local Australians coming on, you're based here on the Gold Coast?
Absolutely. I've been based in the Gold Coast for 6 years. I went to university here at Griffith University, and I love the Gold Coast. The weather is fantastic. The people are amazing, and there's no place I'd rather be.
Fantastic. And so just hearing through the projects that you were describing, so the SAG Hollywood, that's Screen Actors Guild, yeah?
Yeah.
So that seems a bit a world apart from this part of the world, although there is movie world and some of the connections with Hollywood here. How do your projects connect with Australia? Or is there history there about you being in America before this?
Yeah, Scott, that's a fantastic question. You may be listening to this podcast and you're wondering to yourself, we're going through a pandemic at the moment. Am I going to make it? I want to encourage you and tell you that, yes, you can. Before I started this project, I was going to be traveling to America to speak on a global platform, interview celebrities, which is something that I was doing. And I was stuck because of COVID, my business collapsed, and I started going into the marketplace looking for a job. And I was afraid, and I didn't know how to put the bread and butter on the table. And I'm not sure where you are at the moment and you're listening. I want you to know that yes, you can. Yes, you can get up again, and don't be discouraged. Where there's a problem, there's a business. The idea is that you shouldn't have a thinking problem. We may have a crisis, but we shouldn't have a thinking problem. Which leads me to my past experience in America. I remember coming to Australia from Zimbabwe. and I was wailing and crying at the airport, not knowing what was going to happen to me. And here's where I'd like to talk about America, is that in coming to Australia, I went to university. I was empowered, equipped at university. I was educated, which is very important. Then doors started opening for me. I went to America to massive business conferences, connected with people here in Australia who opened doors for me. In America, I've interviewed Mel Gibson, Charlie Sheen, Joel Kilcher. And what am I trying to say is that, you have something to offer the world, but you've got to overcome that quitting mentality, is that we were talking with Scott about entrepreneurship, that not everyone is an entrepreneur because entrepreneurs are risk takers. I had to take some risks. I had to invest in myself. And Scott and I were talking earlier as well about investments. You got to know the right investments. You can't be using thousands of dollars in projects that are not going to empower you, where you're not able to monetize your brand or your business.
Yeah, I think this will be really much a topic on entrepreneurship and how you have guided people through the public speaking, but also coaching and other aspects. And I think the listeners may be at a point where they're considering what their future holds. Maybe they're in a job, a traditional job, if they've been fortunate to hang on to that through the COVID period, or they are they've had a life change and now they need to on the hard times, and now they need to reinvent their mental point of view. And so your personal story is quite interesting, because I imagine that any advice or any training and strategy that you would recommend is based on perhaps personal experience or what you've seen, at least with others. If we just go back to your personal story about where all this came from. So obviously you're at a point now where you're there's a network and people following what you're doing. Yeah. But before that, what skills did you acquire? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I did a Bachelor of Business at Griffith University. And every semester I would go back to Africa and run business workshops. And what also ended up happening is that an opportunity was created in Australia for me to travel to America. I saw an ad on social media where we had an organization from the United States that was meeting up with entrepreneurs, and they were going to create a platform for them to speak on their platform in America and also coach you on how you could build a strong global brand. And so I went to that workshop, and it just opened massive doors for me. I ended up traveling to South Africa, meeting South Africa's first billionaire, Patrice Motsepe, Nelson Mandela's grandson. And it just opened massive doors. And then I was still at university. And when I was at Griffith University, they had an amazing mentorship group, and they skilled lecturers and mentors also helped me and shaped me in who I've become. And the important thing is that the current crisis has affected everybody. But I think a lot of people don't realize is that even for those that have lost their job, that they experience, what happens is that when we get a job, we're not supposed to be in that job forever. There comes a time where we need to now start building our own business. The job is there for us to gain the wealth of experience that we need to start our own businesses. But there's a fear element. And we've got some people that are listening and you're afraid. And it's a normal thing. There's the fear of the unknown. The fear of failure, the fear of what will people say, and we talk about this. It's called risk management, and that's why it's important to do your research. Even with any business that you're going to start, you've got to do your due diligence and your research. And what I learned, the mistakes I made when I was starting my business, is that we try to save costs, engage in a lawyer, engage in the experts that will help you build your foundation properly. And I always encourage people, don't do that. Make sure that you do your due diligence properly, even the people that you're going to work with, especially when it comes to your organization. Your network is your net worth. Who you surround yourself with is who you become. And I can tell where you're going by the people you surround yourself with.
I'm just obviously scribbling down on my piece of paper here, but your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
That is, is that something that's a bit of obviously in your network, is that something that's well understood and well known out there, or is that a newer train of thought around? I'm just trying to get a sense of the wave of thinking around that, but the idea of being part of a community and then the network, is it that the network is working towards the common cause, or you could have a network that's just diverse perhaps, and maybe that's, I'm just curious in your thought around what makes a good network for you.
What makes a good network for me is a network that loves to empower each other. I think the most important thing when it comes to joining groups and networking with others, which is very important, is that we've got to be able to surround ourselves with people that want to see us do well. I've done a lot of business and been around a lot of people and networked a lot of people on both sides of the coin, those that want to see me do well and those that didn't. And we've got no business, giving time to those that don't want to help us succeed, just because we want to be part of the group. Networking is so important. When I came to Australia, when I was started going to university, I was afraid to go out there and meet people. And then when I got into real estate, one of the most important things about real estate is that you got to go meet people, or else there's no business. So I started going out there, meeting people, going to events, and people do business with people that they trust. I'm not going to give you my property or my investment with millions of dollars and I don't trust you. So I know because of COVID, not a lot of people are going out and doing events, but go online, connect with people. There's a lot of events that are happening. And you talked about your network is your net worth. Yes, it is. Because when people trust you and they see you and you build rapport with them and you're opening doors for each other, they'll remember you, and you are both creating value for each other. And networking is about, it's a give and take relationship. If I open a door for you at some point, I'm also expecting you to help me in my time of need, So what's my advice? You listening? Hang around with the go-getters, those people that want to see you do well. And stop wasting your time on people that are full of talk and they're wasting your time. You're going meeting after meeting and you're going nowhere.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I was visualizing that when you're describing the network, and I'm thinking, people look at their own bubble. They've got themselves, their family, and there's sort of this outer layer, and it kind of expands and expands, and then you've got these friends of friends and so on. And with social networking, a lot of it's just formalized. On LinkedIn, for example, you can have connections, and Facebook, you got connections and followers and all of this. But what I liked what you were saying is that even if so the network is your net worth, but that's not necessarily, it actually is complementary. So in a traditional sense, if on a net worth, you're just counting your assets and your liabilities. It's what have you got? But in that sense of networking, someone else within your network, like you said, everyone helps everyone else. Yeah. And so their net worth doesn't compete with your own. It's like you're adding value across the system and everyone's sort of lifted, I feel. Yeah. So, I think, and you can start small. You don't have to feel like you need to instantly reach out, even if you've got, a startup company, that comes with an idea. And I think you've got experience with startups as well, but surely there's an idea, and then gradually, I feel like the inner circle is probably the most important, because if you have somebody that's not if they're not all strong links, you might not be as successful probably, or you might get distracted. Do you have any feeling on that, like in terms of immediate surrounding and who you surround yourself, like as you described? Is there an ideal size for starting a company? Do you need a team of 10, or is it okay to start with 2 and 3 in order to get that balance right?
I would say when you start in a team, a minimum of 3 or 4 people, you need people around you who can also give you advice, And Scott, you touched on a point that's so important, is that leaders are willing to take advice. One thing that I'm so passionate about is leadership. And, we have a lot of people that say they're leaders and, for some reason, they've really accomplished so much, but then there's just some flaws in their character that we see. And when you start in a business, you need to surround yourself with people that are also going to be able to assist you as you build your brand. Because, we can get so caught up in our vision. I've seen a lot of people, they're so in love with their vision, they're obsessed with it, and they just living in a bubble. And yet the people around you, they can see where you're going wrong. They can see how people are relating to this business that you're starting. But if you're a lone ranger, you know what I mean? And worst of all is if you're not willing to take advice, it's a very dangerous situation.
I'm taking a lot of this down, so I appreciate you sharing, because again, you would have seen so many different businesses and models. Are there some industries that you gravitate towards, like that you just find are a bit fun to operate in? What's your favorite kind of business these days?
I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship, leadership, branding, marketing. I mean, I'm an expert in those areas, and this it leads me to also share on being the best in what you do. If you're going to go into business, you've got to be an expert in that field. You've got to know what you're doing, because people are willing to pay for a unique, authentic product. And why are people going to pay for it? Because it's different, because you know what you're talking about. And so if you're going to open a business, make sure that you are the best at it, and I'm not saying, okay, number one globally, but you're the best at it, be it in your community, in your area, in your country. And that's why people are going to pay for it, because if you just, providing a similar product to everybody else, well, am I going to go out of my way and leave the bigger brands, and do business with you?
Mm-hmm. You just got me thinking about, the different industries and which ones are maybe attracting more entrepreneurs. The one that comes to mind is e-commerce. Everyone's sort of thinking, well, it's well established now. There was a point when e-commerce was like an extension. It might be 10% of the business, and everything else was still sold through a retail store. But now it's well accepted. People are ordering things online, groceries, clothing for sure. Is that something? Are you noticing any areas there that are emerging with certain demographics, perhaps women or maybe younger people are actually getting more active in that space? Like, do you notice any differences with pockets of groups? So women, younger people, men of a certain age?
Yeah. In terms of e-commerce, I find that a lot of young people, especially the university graduates, are going into that. The reality is that everything is going online. I believe that everybody's going to have to learn and to be able to understand what e-commerce is all about, because especially with COVID, and actually right now, if you don't know anything about e-commerce, you don't know even how to sell products online, then we've really got a problem. Scott, why are we online? We are online. If your business is online, it's to make money. If you're online and you're not making money, you need to know what e-commerce is all about. And I've had one of my websites, and it's been online and it wasn't making money. So why are we paying the monthly subscriptions? Why are we paying? Okay, we want to have a digital footprint, but if it's a business, if it's a company, there must be a call to action. What's a call to action? That's why we're talking about e-commerce.
Yeah, I think that's clear. And then we enter the world of people giving advice. And if you're starting a business, sometimes it's tempting. There's other companies that will recommend a turnkey e-commerce package ready to go. But if you haven't actually put yourself in the the position of driving that business beyond the first 3 months, the likelihood of that carrying on is pretty slim. I think whether people study for this kind of thing or have some mentorship, or I think it's just about having those steps about how to make money at the earliest possible stage. Because that becomes de-risking. You talked about risk management, but you need an income for yourself and for your immediate, if you're hiring staff early on. So just looking at the education and where people get this kind of information, what are your thoughts about people searching on the internet for advice and trying to self-educate? Is that a liability? Can that go wrong?
Yes, it can. I'm an advocate for when it comes to mentorship and business coaching. I'm also a business coach, and I've been doing business coaching for a while, and I will not stop. I know I've started a publishing company, but there's always a need for a business coach. I've actually partnered with Martin Mangiello from Mangiello Associates, and we are doing ethics and leadership training for organizations, which is important because we believe that organizations need to be able to equip and empower their employees on ethics in business, and this is to prevent, bad things from happening in the company. Some organizations are not prioritizing ethics and leadership training, and it ends up biting them, somewhere along the line. I mean, with the recent incident with Harvey Weinstein, people having meetings in hotel rooms, these things are happening. We talk about that. People being able to speak up. We were talking earlier that a lot of people are afraid to speak up in an organization. And when they see their leadership are making wrong decisions or people are being discriminated against, we talk about these things. And when we do ethics and leadership training, the CEOs, the leaders, the people in the powerful positions, they're not allowed to be in these training courses so that people can speak up. And it's just a powerful training course, and we encourage organizations to reach out to us at herringtonpublications.com for more information on that. And talking about business coaching, I have a mentor, and Martin, my business partner, he's also my mentor. He's equipped and empowered me so that I don't have to make the mistakes that he's made before. That's why it's important to have a business coach and a mentor. A business coach helps you on how to start, grow, and monetize your business. You've got no business getting a business coach if they're not going to teach you how to monetize your business. Please, I will repeat that. I will repeat. If you're going to get a business coach, the very first question you need to ask is, when and how am I going to monetize my business? And that's the amazing thing about Martin is that, everything that we do is that, are we going to make money out of this? Because why are we doing business if we're not going to make profit? We've all learned this in university. For those that have done business, is that we go into business to make profits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. That's very accurate in terms of, and even sustainability. Like some people think of profits and they think, okay, is it pursuit of greed and just trying to pile up the money? But truly, it's sustainability. Those profits represent an ability to live longer than the company itself, and then hire more people and onward effects. So, yeah, just to put that out there. But look, in terms of the business coaching side of things, I think that's important because it feels like there's a shift to people using their skills to become business coaches.
Yeah.
Is it the type of thing that how many business coaches to a business? I'm just curious on the relationship. I'm thinking mentor protege. Sometimes it's a very tight one-to-one. Business coach, how many businesses would a business coach normally keep in their portfolio?
I don't have too many business coaches. Throughout my career, and I can name my business coaches. When I was at university, I had a lot of lecturers and teachers that were equipping and empowering me, and they were not my business coaches. But when I was traveling to America and I was building my brand, I was actually coached by the best. This is the JT Fox organization. I mean, they are the best when it comes to marketing and branding. I learned how to market and to brand my brand. And then afterwards now, my mentor and my coach, Martin Mongiello, who's an expert at monetizing your brand. We've also started courses on how to monetize your business because we saw that there's a need, We were talking about that, Scott, is that nowadays we've got so many business coaches. Everybody's a business coach. But I know if you're a good business coach, if you can equip and empower entrepreneurs to monetize their brand, and Martin Mongiello is an expert at equipping and empowering you to monetize your brand within 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm a living testimony to that, Mm-hmm. And so we are equipping and empowering entrepreneurs on how to monetize their brand. And so yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that you've put a clear timeline to that. I think that just helps people understand that you may have an idea, you may have put in some hard work, but at the moment where you're at now, if you're not already sustainable in your idea or your side business or your hustle, put a timeline on it. So let's say 8 weeks. How can you get profitable? And that is a healthy step. So that's some nice free advice, essentially, that people can apply. The other thing I was thinking about is just more about the biggest areas of need at the moment. And I think you being in Australia, you'd have a certain perspective on what you see around you. And I picked up on your profile, your LinkedIn profile, the mention of working with indigenous and perhaps underprivileged sectors. Can you tell us a bit about that in terms of how what does the touch point look like? How are they receiving information to help them succeed, do you think?
Yeah,
in Australia?
That was one of the projects that we worked on last year, where we had a lot of Australian celebrities, and I was also equipped and selected to be one of the people that would help the indigenous community to speak up so that they could be heard. In my area is that because I had access to celebrities who could actually support and empower the indigenous community in business as well. We had a lot of women that were coming up with new projects and they needed exposure. I think the most important thing about the indigenous community that we talked about last year is that what do the indigenous community, especially in Australia, need right now is that they don't need money thrown at them anymore. This is one of the things that we discussed last year is that, in other words, if they don't need that, what do they need? Is that they need people to go into the communities and equip and empower them, running business workshops, like we're talking about, equipping and empowering women and youth to become economically independent and wholly sufficient. And how is that? Financial literacy. You can give me $1,000, but if I don't know how to manage that money, how to save it, you're wasting your time. And this is the thing that I love about Australia. It equips and empowers. It's people that are struggling, and it gives us funding. But if you're not going to equip us and empower us on how to save that money, we're wasting our time.
That's interesting. I'm definitely keen to look at everything, all the activities that are happening, because it's sometimes people are just going about their daily lives, but you don't come across the information or the events and so on. Is there what do you recommend is a good source of information in Australia in your field? Like you mentioned I think it was some of the major congresses that are happening. Are those published in a central calendar somewhere, or like the ones from last year, the Entrepreneurship Congress and so on? It's just gone out of my mind. I mean, I imagine they're promoting themselves quite actively. So for those in the circle, so maybe on
Deadly Guardians. It's just it just gone out of my mind. So if you go on Instagram, if you go to the Deadly Guardians on Instagram, Deadly Guardians as well. So they've got a lot of Australian celebrities, footballers, and then they're also helping with mentorship programs as well, going into schools and helping out the youth on suicide prevention as well. So let's just say we've got people in the indigenous community that are struggling with drugs, and their job is to help them to stay in school as well. And this is part of also what I was doing.
Okay.
But with me, it's more of the women empowerment, equipping and empowering so that they can become economically independent, wholly sufficient. And that's where I come in.
Wonderful. Yeah, look, I mean, you've got a unique perspective, and you've done and seen and met many people. I'm curious how it feels to be you, really. So having been on stage at these congresses, how does that feel? Obviously, maybe the first time you did it, and now that you've done it a few times, you're on stage, and then an audience of how many people roughly?
Wow. The biggest audience I've spoken on is for the Tony Robbins event in Australia. And I spoke, well, it wasn't for too long though, but there was 8,000 plus people, and I shared my testimony, and it was just wonderful. The second largest audience, I would say, was in South Africa, 2,500 plus. In America as well, for one of the biggest business events, mega success.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just been amazing. And obviously in Africa, my own events, youth empowerment, women empowerment, 1,000 plus. So to date, I've empowered more than 50,000 people overall, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I think certainly. And outside of Australia as well. And so you've got these touch points.
Yeah.
So I guess the bigger question is what, obviously, how do you get the balance in your life? You probably get pulled in all sorts of directions. What is a typical day like for you these days?
Yeah, Scott, it's all about creating the balance. A typical morning for me is getting up and I love the Lord. I say without the Lord, I'm nothing and I can do nothing. And when I say I love the Lord, is that I am a Christian and I love Jesus. And so I take some time out to pray. And after praying, get my daughter ready for school. And then I take her to school, get back, and then I start working. Obviously, get some exercise in there before I go to work. I mean, now I work from home. Due to COVID, and my new business is online, so I'm blessed. Working from home, and then going to meetings such as this, and meeting up with colleagues and friends on Fridays. I cannot stress how important it is to create the balance. A lot of people are overworked and suffering from all kinds of ailments. I remember when I was just overworking myself, I started having problems with my eyes, dry eye, and you're overworking yourself. And I mean, for what? We've got to create the balance, And I think when you create boundaries with your business partners, and, you're the one, you determine how your day goes. You determine what happens with your health, because everybody can be replaced. You may be listening and you are a CEO of a huge conglomerate and company, and you're not spending time with your family. I want to tell you that the day you end up in hospital and you're in hospital for months on, they are going to be able to replace you. And there's nobody that's irreplaceable. And the time that has been taken away from your family is just so painful. And I always encourage people, create the balance. You have the rule book. You draw the line. Weekends, I'm with my family. And this doesn't apply to everybody. Some people will work weekends and then during the week they're free. So make time out for yourself first, because if you're not well rested, you're not exercising, you're of benefit to nobody, tired, exhausted, grumpy, and irritable to your family because you have not rested well. So take time out. It's called me time. Take time out for your family and your children. Love your wife. And don't give them the scraps of your time. Give them quality time, and the children are watching. Most abusers have seen their father, their mother abuse their spouse. They're watching. So the seed that you sow is the fruit that will, you know what I mean? That will, the seed that you sow in, it must bear good fruit for your children and future generations.
That's a powerful message. I appreciate you sharing, and I think that a lot of the podcasting, theme that we wanted to get to is just how people live their lives, and maybe sharing some of those positive, the positive framework that they have. Like you said, there's some structure to your day, and it helps you because that structure is in place. It sounds like that's a regular thing. So every morning, a certain, and then you proceed, and then at the end of the day, you lived a full day and a fulfilling day. And the idea of balance. I just wanted to ask you about the topic of perhaps legacy, because I feel like we've got a lot of focus on the startup with other guests and trying to help people embrace being free and pursuing things. But when you get to a certain point, you've done a lot of things. You've got a very long list of accomplishments. I should say again, multi-award winner, keynote speaker, and so on. So there'll always be things for you to do. People want your time, but does the word legacy come into the picture in terms of longer lasting, not recognition, but it's just a mark that you've made in the world?
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm passionate about leadership, and leadership is definitely transgenerational. I definitely like to leave a positive legacy for my children, and Australia is a very important part of my legacy. You need to know that without Australia, I would not be able to impact the women that I've impacted in Zimbabwe. I truly believe, and I'm confident in saying this, that there's a lot of trends that I've set in Zimbabwe in terms of entrepreneurship. And I do believe that people are watching me. If anything, for women of color that are going to be coming into Australia and questioning and asking themselves, can I make it in this country? Isn't it? Are there opportunities for women of color? The answer is yes. I mean, we've seen history being made right now in the United States of America. Kamala Harris, first Vice President of the United States of America. I'd like to see that in Australia. Will I be part of that legacy? Oh, yes. I think about it. What's going to happen in the future? Will Hazel get into politics? Oh, yes. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if not me, then who?
That question gave me goosebumps. I do love that. If not me, then who?
Yes,
It goes back full circle to what you said, I think, before. We were talking about, every problem that you could see out there in the world is an opportunity, is a business. Yeah. If not me, then who? I think it's powerful. So if people haven't considered where their place is in the world, have a look around. Is it all roses, or can you do something about it and have fun doing it?
Yes, I think business is fun. Business shouldn't be so serious, and I want to stress that again is that, when what I just said right now is that if not me, then who? I was driving to this interview and I looked at my life and I was like, I don't want to be doing this, and I don't want to, maybe I should, just stop where I am and just be grateful. But you know what? If I'm not going to be a voice, in this nation, or I don't know, any other nation, and to speak up, then if not me, then who? What was this all about? Why did I come to Australia? Why did I educate myself? Why have I been through the things that I've been through? And it's just like the Bible. God never ever used anybody that was perfect. He takes the mess. He takes the people that are an absolute mess and he just molds them and then he equips them and then they're ready and they have a testimony. Show me a perfect person that has a testimony that will shake nations and equip and empower people. I don't know. But the reality is, in the world we live in, they're looking for perfect people. I personally, when I'm building a business, I look for the problem solvers, the people that have been in a problem and have solved some of the most complex problems. My favorite quote of my own: the future belongs to those who are willing to solve complex problems and innovate.
I appreciate you sharing that. That's wonderful. Look, I think people will be very appreciative of your time that you've shared that with us today. And if they wanted to follow you, you can just point us in the right direction. So we did find you on LinkedIn for public speaking engagements and so on. Are you still taking opportunities in that space? Would you consider doing more public speaking, or is your what are you open to? I'm
still doing public speaking, business coaching, and I'm also doing ethics and leadership training, and the most important thing, how people can monetize their brands. And those are the topics that I want to speak on: ethics and leadership, how you can monetize your business, and definitely marketing and branding, how I built my brand. You can get in touch with me. You can go onto my website, www.herringtonpublications.com, and you can email me at info@herringtonpublications.com, and let's do business.
That's amazing. Dr. Hazel Herrington, thank you very much, and we appreciate your time, and we welcome you back anytime.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Scott.
Thank you, guys. Take care, guys.